Lecture number 5, Socialization. Think about this. If roles and statuses are part of our culture, it means that you carry your culture as part of your very being. You cannot separate yourself from your culture. Remember that culture is not just the country you're from. Culture overlaps among countries. So you really are a reflection of a lot of places. This lecture will focus on how we come to learn about roles and statuses, our culture, as well as processes by which those things become part of who we are as a person. While the bulk of what we will be reviewing focuses on kids, because they are the starting point of cultural incorporation, adult socialization includes ways we learn new cultures or subcultures as we join new groups such as jobs, a new church, or taking on a new hobby. The process itself almost never changes. What can you do with this information? Knowing it will help you be a better parent to kids going through this process. I think it will also help you through the socialization process as you leave old groups and enter new ones in your future. Cognitive socialization. What do you see in this picture? Obviously, a young boy is trying to mimic his father. It is a cute scene that readily shows that at least one way that young people adopt the mannerisms of their parents is imitation. Imitation is the starting point for habits. Over time and with regular use, habits become ingrained and nearly impossible to change. Psychologists have historically focused on social learning theory, that children learn to be members of the world through observation and reinforcement, by seeing adult role models, copying their thoughts, feelings, and behaviors, and then being rewarded for doing so. The result is a child that grows up to be an adult. Symbolic interactionists agree with this idea in principle, but two important things need to be added to the model. First, people learn bad habits in families and schools, just like good habits. This may include ideas of racism, drug use, and poor work habits. Second, like adults, children have agency. They have some free will and can pick and choose elements of their experience. This idea can apply to more serious things in life than shaving. It can apply to values and beliefs. What children hear in the home or see on the internet are also being modeled and replicated. Eventually, they become adults. And when they become adults, they take on these habits. They can be mundane or more serious habits. It may relate to a product that they use, but also a diet, such as being a vegetarian or being on a high-protein diet. It may relate to issues of race and gender. Our brain sorts through thousands of pieces of information and retains much of it, even when we're not aware of it. The only way to avoid this process is to limit the information that we take in. Stages of socialization. George Herbert Mead is the most important figure in symbolic interaction. He is often considered the father of the field. He argued that we go through 3 stages of development to engage in symbolic interaction as adults. At the youngest ages, we are simply collecting information about the world, learning the meanings that we attach to the people and objects around us. Are different types of food good or bad? Are different people higher or lower status? In the preparatory stage, we are simply memorizing these meanings, which includes how to act out different roles, such as playing doctor. At the play stage, that's when we start playing out different roles in life. In some cases, we're not actually taking on those roles. In this stage, we are practicing how people play roles in the first place, and typically only one at a time. The game stage is when we have accepted real roles in society and understand how to manage many roles at the same time. Think about this example. Someone in high school is trying to look good as an athlete, but also be a good daughter or son. How might this person act in front of her or his peers in the locker room? Would those behaviors be acceptable at home as a good daughter or son? Perhaps, perhaps not. Regardless, the individual must manage 2 roles, which often includes some contradiction. Young children are not capable of these complexities while they grow. But as they age and start taking on real roles, they learn how to manage each one and the intersection of each of those roles. And it can also be very stressful. Like any aspect of life, playing our roles in society takes time and practice. Can you think of anyone who is really good at this? That they know how to do multiple roles at the same time and very well? Many politicians are masters at this, how to read and manipulate social situations. Not only do they have multiple roles, but they must know their crowds, the people they're talking to, and the myriads of roles that each of them have. Someone good at this can create positive sentiments among people, feelings that they hope will lead to voting. Agents of socialization. Society provides the context by which people learn how to play out their roles in the world. Here's my quick summary. There are 3 agents of socialization, 3 major ways that we learn about the entire social world in front of us: the family, schools, and peers. The family. The family is the first group we interact with, so it makes sense that they would be the most impactful in our lives. Our families are not only the places where people teach us the meanings of society, they also pass on their status. Your parents' education and income have a huge impact on your values and beliefs, above and beyond your words and actions. The vast majority of people born in one class stay in that class as adults, and it's largely because of their family background. Schools. Education is explicitly designed to teach societal meanings, but technically it's supposed to teach us how to be economically successful in society. However, there are many other messages we learn in school. The very nature of school, its bureaucratic nature, is being learned along with reading and writing. This lesson is important in a world dominated by large organizations that children will need to learn to navigate when they leave home. Peers. Our friends are also part of the learning process. They teach us things that we may not learn at home or at school. It may be about sensitive topics or simply ones not covered in those 2, such as learning how to be cool or modern forms of music or social media. Even sex education happens in those other agents of socialization. Our peers teach us acceptable standards in these issues, which may be different. Anything can be an agent of socialization. The media is a common example of another agent of socialization because it is a source of information and can act as a model for our own behavior. Can you think of a media person who is important to you, such as an actor or musician? Simply seeing things on YouTube can impact your thoughts and behaviors. We have some control over how we're impacted by the world, a process called self-socialization. By limiting the kinds of things we're exposed to and putting ourselves in front of those things that we want to be impacted by, we are more likely to be the person we want to be. The sociology of childhood. While there are images of children being the repository of their parents' values and beliefs, research shows that children also have agency. They neither totally accept or reject the things that they are taught in family, schools, or among peers. Like any intelligent being, children take the meanings presented to them and use that information to make decisions in any given situation. Let's take an extreme example. A child growing up in a racist family, maybe even in a racist area. However, through media and other places, children learn that it is not acceptable to say racist things in public. As an adult, what do you think this person would do if asked their opinion about race relations in a group of strangers, while on a job interview or a public setting? That's not easy to answer. Social situations have a powerful impact on us because they make us merge our thoughts and feelings with real-life conditions. Humans are creative in the ways that they react to the complexities put before them, and even the same person can respond differently each time when the same conditions are present. The Life Course. Life Course Sociology tries to understand how societal events impact us as individuals. Even as I prepared this lecture, the COVID-19 pandemic is impacting us as a country. How is it impacting you? Research in the life course shows that people are most impacted by societal events through the changes it makes in our direct lives. First, society is involved in creating life events, a positive or negative occurrence. While we attribute this to the idea of history, it is important to note that it is just something that happens in society at any given time, like a war or famine. We are usually only impacted by these historical events when it has a direct relationship with us. For example, being conscripted to war or someone we know. Consider other things that have happened because of the pandemic. Did you lose a job? Did a friend of yours lose a job? Did you get sick, or do you know someone who got sick? According to life course theory, those are the ways that we feel the effects of historical events, such as a pandemic. People have agency as they go through life. This does not mean that they can do whatever they like. The example of the family trying to make their way through the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami still had to manage through problems, but in this case, they took the initiative to survive rather than giving up, hence using the idea of agency. In addition, they had help from other people, something called linked lives in life course sociology. Hence, large events can impact us in different ways depending on our own personality and sense of agency and the decisions that we make during those events, but also our interactions with other people. Our success ultimately depends on a mixture of all of these factors. What does this have to do with socialization? The answer is that historical events representing society become a part of us to the degree to which we are impacted by it. We can become better or worse as a result of the event, and we can make decisions that have a long-term impact on how we react to it. Life course and life stages. Life course recognizes that people are more or less impacted by events depending on which life stage they are in. It is expected that we take on full-time work at some point in life and eventually retire or stop working at a certain point in time. But what happens if this process is interrupted? It is typically associated with stress and anxiety. What would happen to a woman who wanted a child but is approaching her 40s and her chances of having children are coming to an end? How about someone who's in their mid-career but gets laid off because of the pandemic? In some cases, these changes have direct impact on our lives, such as the loss of income. But in other cases, it simply reflects the stress associated with this sense that we're not doing the things we're supposed to be doing at any given point in time in our lives. All of these expectations are created in and by a society and its culture. Conclusions. While the word socialization usually conjures the images of children, it also applies to you as you're listening to this lecture. You take in this information. If you decide to reject it, it won't impact you very much. If you ignore it or accept it, it will likely impact you in some way. Perhaps some things impact you more than other things. The result is that you're a little different than before you listened to this lecture. What can you do with this understanding? You can choose those things that you are exposed to, recognizing that socialization processes are going on all the time. If you have children, you can consider the things that they're exposed to. Do you want the things that they are seeing and hearing to become part of them? The same goes for you. What kinds of things do you want to become part of you? Agency is important, but it does not mean that you can simply turn off socialization. It does mean that you have choices in what you're exposing yourself and the other people around you to.